Hello, my name is Rudy Renzel, and this is a sermon I delivered at Vine Church of Petaluma on April 9th, 2017, which was Palm Sunday. And I'm also going to be presenting slides with this. So the first one is the introduction to the sermon, and I have paintings on these slides, so I'll talk about them as I'm going along here. The first is the entry of Christ into Jerusalem by Pietro Lorenzetti in 1320. It's a fresco which is found in the Basilica of San Francisco di Assisi in Assisi, Italy. And this was as the church was getting away from the flat icons and starting to get some perspective into the paintings. So you can see some of that here, and I may talk about this later on in the sermon, but a beautiful piece of work here. So, on to the sermon. Today we celebrate Palm Sunday with our palm branches, our dates, and our crosses made out of palm branches. We celebrate the arrival of Christ as King at Jerusalem, an event often portrayed in Western art, so I have several paintings of this event reflected in the slides. All four gospel writers recorded this event in their gospel accounts, so we will examine their different accounts in an attempt of gospel harmonization. I want to focus on four questions. First, why did Christ ride on a donkey? Second, why did people spread their cloaks and cut branches before Jesus? Third, why did people bring palm branches? And fourth, why did Jesus weep? All four gospel accounts or writers agree Jesus rode on a donkey, while Luke and Mark specify he rode on a donkey's colt, which no one had ever ridden before, sometimes called an unbroken donkey. Donkeys are known for their stubbornness, and unbroken donkeys, even colts, tend to buck when someone first tries to ride them. Yet this donkey submitted to Jesus, a supernatural element. But to address the first question, why did Jesus ride on a donkey? In the ancient Middle East, there was a long-standing tradition. When kings arrived on a horse, it meant they arrived in a warlike or conquering position. On the other hand, when they arrived on a donkey, it meant they arrived in a manner seeking peace. Jesus wanted to convey that he arrived at Jerusalem as King of the Jews, but in a peaceful manner. He thereby fulfilled the prophecy of Zacharias, whom Matthew and John quote, that the King of Israel would approach humbly riding a donkey, another supernatural element in terms of the fulfillment of that prophecy. A final supernatural element had to do with finding the donkey. Jesus gave his disciples detailed instructions on how to find the donkey and what to say when others questioned them about taking it. Matthew and Mark relate how the crowds spread their cloaks and branches they had cut on the road before Christ. Why did they do this? In the ancient East, it was customary to accord someone the highest honor by spreading something to cover the path before them. Basically, the crowd was honoring Christ, acknowledging his claim to be king. In John's Gospel, they actually say, "Blessed is the King of Israel." In Matthew, they call Jesus the Son of David, a reference to his kingship. In Mark, they refer to the coming kingdom of our father David. And in this slide we see the entry into Jerusalem by Giotto, painted between 1304 and 1306. And this is another fresco in the Arena Chapel in Padua, Italy. In the prior slide, I forgot to mention, there we have a painting called The Procession in the Streets of Jerusalem by James Tissot, a Frenchman, between 1886 and 1894, which now is in the Brooklyn Museum in New York City, New York. And interesting in this particular painting, besides seeing Jesus riding on a donkey, it's also a little bit like a parade with the people in front. Instead of turning around and they're proceeding before him. And the people on the side, you can see they're spreading their cloaks to honor the king. Something we see in the other slide by Giotto, specifically there's a man spreading his cloak, and that was a way of acknowledging or giving honor to a person. So moving on, only John's Gospel refers to the crowd bringing palm branches. Matthew refers to branches they cut from trees, while Mark refers to branches they cut from the fields. Palms is the common name for many plants, including trees, and there was a lot of palm plants and trees in Israel. So the other cut branches could well have been palm branches, though they might have included branches from other plants and trees. Throughout the ancient Near Eastern Mediterranean world, a palm branch symbolized victory, triumph, peace, and eternal life. In the Old Testament, on the first day of the Festival of Tabernacles, the Israelites are told to take palm branches and rejoice before the Lord. According to their oral tradition, the Israelites are to take palm branches each of the 7 days of the Festival of Tabernacles, which is called Sukkot, or Sukkot, I think is the way it's pronounced, along with 3 other plants in and around the temple. Palm branches also covered the tabernacles or booths that people slept in during the festival of the Festival of Tabernacles. The palm branch became a symbol of Israel itself, along with the fruit of the date palm trees, which is the date. In Revelations, the great throng that stands before the throne in white robes holds palm branches. The crowd brought palm branches to rejoice the arrival of the King of Israel. However, John tells us that many came only because they heard about the miracle with Lazarus. Apparently, they were mainly interested in seeing a miracle worker. And here we have a couple of pictures from the Jewish Festival of Tabernacles called Sukkot or Sukkot. And we see a palm branch there with the other 3 plants that make up, there's a name for it, I forget offhand, but the palm branch is a central plant in the Festival of Tabernacles. And there we see a tabernacle that is covered in palm branches, not only on the roof, but all along the sides. And we see the tables spread with the many types of food that are part of the festival. And if you go on the internet, there's many pictures of the Jewish booths for tabernacle, and most of them have palm branches on the roof. So there you go. Next one, Luke tells us, instead of rejoicing, Jesus wept over Jerusalem as he approached it. And here we see a picture, a painting actually, and the title is called "He Wept Over It." And we see Jesus looking at Jerusalem, and the idea is he's weeping over it. The people there, the apostles, the disciples at that time, and his followers were puzzled by this reaction. But Jesus knew Israel would not eventually accept him as its king, even though the crowds were enthusiastic for now. They did not recognize the time of God's coming, and they failed to see what would bring them peace. Those are his words. And we know in history in 70 A.D., the Roman general Titus, who later became emperor, surrounded Jerusalem and besieged it. Jerusalem fell, and the Roman armies destroyed it, including the temple, as Jesus prophesied. Later, between 132 and 136 AD, the Romans crushed another rebellion in Judea and extensively depopulated the Jewish population there by annihilation and genocide. They suppressed the Jewish faith and banned Jews from Jerusalem. Jesus foresaw all this and wept about it. So while we celebrate Palm Sunday with the body of Christ around the world, we should keep in mind that Jesus wept about what would happen to his people, the Jews. We should also keep in mind, as Jesus kept telling his disciples, that he went to Jerusalem to die, to be a sacrifice, to pay for our sins, so we could enter into eternal life and join him in the kingdom of heaven here on earth. May God help us to grow in him as we seek to follow him and be like him. And at this point we would pray and open it for questions or discussion. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you another time. Thank you. Bye-bye.